RWBY Volume 4 premiere, The Next Step. Now, there are about 800 things to talk about with this premiere, but the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that there's an episode, and it's in the very first volume, but when the kids are first thrown into the forest for like their first big mission, that's called The First Step. That's the first step, part 1 and part 2, and it leads up to episode 8 of the series, Players in Pieces, which is like the first really big fight where they fight both the Nevermore and the Deathstalker. So I thought it was cool that they made a reference to that. Like, that was the first big moment for the series, and then this is the second really big moment for the series. And it was a great freaking episode. You know, like, it was cool that, you know, the little reference there. It was a nice length episode, which I don't know if we're going to be getting even longer episodes. I would love it if we got, for this volume, we got like 22-minute episodes. I think that would be great. I would love to know if you guys think that might happen. But I would love it, even if we stayed at 19, that's still technically like 2 or 3 more minutes than some of the longest episodes, or most of the longest episodes from the last volume. So I would love it if at some point we just officially got flat out 22-minute episodes. That's like a normal series on TV, you know, minus commercials. Those normally come out to about 22 or 23 minutes. So I would love it if we got that. I think it would be really cool. Don't know if we'll get that or not, but my hope is that we will, because with this having such a big action sequence in it with, you know, our new team, I was thinking maybe that's why it's only 19, and it would have been even longer if it was all dialogue based, but they were moving around so much. Typically when they're really big, when we get like action focused episodes, and it was like, I'd say it was like basically a third of this episode was that one action sequence, and I feel like because of that, that's why we only got 19 minutes, and I think we can actually, I'm just guessing obviously, but I'm hoping based on it being like such a big action sequence, that's why we lost a couple minutes. So hopefully we'll get like 22, 23-minute episodes, all volume long. I think we'd all love that. That would be amazing. But that's just my hope based on what we've gotten. You know, them putting out the World of Remnant episodes like that. Of course, they're using a brand new program. I don't know if it's easier or not. And, you know, that kind of made me wonder, is that why they did all the World of Remnant episodes? Or was that just a story thing? Like, hey, you know, obviously we're going to be jumping all over the place. We knew that. So I think that made a lot of sense to just throw out the World of Remnant episodes like that. But, you know, hopefully we'll get some longer episodes. The new animation style, like I said, I gotta talk about this. I might do a whole video on this alone, because the animation, it looks great, but I'm in that 50-50 camp where it's like, one half of me is like, it looks so good. Like, it's so incredibly fluid. I was blown away by it because I didn't realize that we were getting this until like 2 days before I saw the episode, because I never watched that RWBY clip, the character short, because I was like, oh, well, that's the thing I saw. Because I watched the video that was uploaded on YouTube when someone recorded it at the RTX event. So I was like, oh, well, I've seen that. I watched that video like 3 times off of somebody's phone. So I was like, oh, no big deal. You know, I already saw that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch it a few days ahead of time before the volume starts, just to kind of get amped up and, you know, kind of look at the cool action sequence. And when I turned it on, I was like, holy crap. I didn't realize this from the random video off of somebody's cell phone. But this is a whole new animation style, and it blew my mind when I actually realized that watching it in HD. I was like, holy crap, I was not prepared for this, and I didn't know what was happening, like I said, to like 2 days before the season actually started for me. I was like, oh, this is totally different. This is not what we had before. So in one regard, I think it looks amazing. Like I said, it's very fluid. It looks, you know, it just looks more high def than, you know, the other stuff did, although that had a very unique style where it was like, in some ways it looked like really good 2D animation, and some stuff really was 2D animation. I think for the most part they stopped at, it was like 90% of the 2D animation was kind of gone by the time we hit volume 3. But I was like, man, this looks amazing. And then going through the episode, I'm like, this looks really good. It's a little weird because it's not like an upgrade. It's literally a different program and style of animation. But at the same time, there's that other side of me that doesn't like it 100%, because it's like, man, I'm going to miss that old style. And I felt like, you know, because this wasn't an upgrade to our, you know, the style that we're used to for the first 3 volumes. This is a brand new thing. It's not like, oh, they use Poser Pro, excuse me. They use like Poser Pro for volume 1, 2, and 3, and we clearly saw upgrades into, you know, the way everything looked. It's like, okay, volume 1 did this. Volume 2, the whole first episode of that volume was basically like, check out how good the animation is this season. And it was great. And, you know, they have the stuff where, you know, like Good Witch like brings the whole lunchroom back together, and everything just looks very fluid, and the animation looked better. And then Volume 3, it got even greater, and now it's like totally different. And it's something about that is just like, man, that kind of sucks. I still think it looks good. And then, excuse me. And then on the other side of it, like I said, it's just such a departure. And plus, I felt that the other style was a little better because it was unique. Even though technically it was the Poser Pro animation pretty much. You know, whatever the other, and you know, stuff that they were using. It was like, okay, of course technically other things can look like that. But as far as I was concerned, no one had done it. You know, nothing looked like RWBY outside of some of the, you know, fan videos I saw where people use the same program to make like fan characters in the universe. And I like that animation. And this, going through it, and I didn't realize this till the second episode, but the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, this looks really great, but this kind of looks like a video game cutscene to me. And then when I watched through the second time, I realized why. You know, it's not just because it's cel shaded and stuff. It's not like, it wasn't even like anime. It was because this looks now at this point literally like the Fire Emblem games. If you go back and watch, I think it's for the most recent games, if you go watch those trailers for the last Fire Emblem games, they look exactly like RWBY does now, except it's like a bit more cel shaded, I think. And I think that's an issue for me now, where it's like, oh, this isn't as unique as I felt the original animation was. Plus, you know, like I said, just the simple fact that it's such a huge departure where they went through 3 full volumes of like, yeah, it's the same thing, it just looks better. And now it's clearly like, no, this isn't just better. This is like, this is literally, it's a totally different thing now. So, I'm really in the middle. I don't hate it at all. Obviously, I was like, there's a part of me that's just like, it looks phenomenal, because it certainly does. It's just weird. It's like, oh, that really sucks that we're getting rid of that old style, which they worked on for so long. And maybe it's just harder. Maybe that's why they switched, where it's like, okay, this still looks phenomenal, but it's also way easier. So if in some regard we still get great animation and it makes it easier for them, so we get longer episodes, maybe not so many, you know, maybe they can make it where the seasons are either longer or there's less time between seasons. That, you know, that could work as well. Who knows? You know, or maybe we get more World of Remnant episodes because it's easier for them to do the main series. So I'm sure it has its benefits. It's not just the fact that the animation is there. I'm always gonna miss it because I love the animation that we used to have, and like I said, every new volume, it was clearly the same animation, just upgraded to look better. And I thought it looked great in the last volume, and now it's like, man, it's a little weird looking at the characters, because it's like, it's just a different palette. Like, it's the same colors, but it looks visually different. It's just different how things reflect off of each other. It's just a different style. So it's a little weird, but still like it. You know, I would love to know what you guys think about it. Like, if you're okay with this, if you're 50-50 like me, where it's like, obviously, it's not going to be like, I can't possibly get used to this. Eventually it's going to be what it is, unless everybody ends up hating it and they go backwards, which would be very interesting. We have like one volume that looks like this, and then they're like, all right, everybody was mad, so we'll just go right back. That would be pretty funny, but I don't think that'll be the case. I think this is what it is. You know, that was Beacon animation. This is the rest of the world. This is Remnant animation now. So we'll see how all that plays out. You know, like I said, I want to know what you guys think, but I think it looks good. I'm just really gonna miss the old style because I felt it was so unique to RWBY, and this, I already have an example in my head of exactly, you know, what this already looks like to me. So it's like my biggest thing about, like, oh, it sucks. I already have something that I can have an exact example to say, like, it looks exactly like this. So that's the only thing, but great episode. We got new characters in here, new villains, as well as, I'm assuming, new heroes, whoever the random, you know, the farm boy was. But starting off from the very beginning, we get Grimm coming out of the, like, basically black tar and stuff, which was pretty cool. We get all our new villains, as well as 2 former villains, or I guess technically 4 former villains, because we saw Salem, so I'm counting her as an older villain. So we got Salem. We have Cinder with her new look now, because not only has she changed her outfit and changed her hair, but RWBY inadvertently has changed her face, because she blew out like the side of her face and she no longer has one of her eyes, and she's not able to really speak too loudly, which I thought was very interesting. Like, they showed it, and I was like, holy crap, I didn't think that would have been the case. So that was very interesting. She was really messed up. She was basically nearly killed. Whole side of her face, I'm guessing, is like scorched and messed up. I was curious if maybe her arm was burnt up too, because it seemed like the same sort of shade as what was on her face, but I think that might just be a random part of her design. But at the same time, it's hard to tell. With RWBY, like every little thing kind of means something, so maybe the fact that she had like the little gray sleeve on, just like she had the thing covering the side of her face, maybe it has the same purpose, but you would think she could just have 2 long sleeves. I don't know. So it's like, it's probably just a part of the cool costume design, but at the same time it might actually have a purpose to it, so I don't really know. But it was cool getting to see the new villains. We have the prim and proper guy, he's the only one I don't remember. All I can think of is he's proper and he's got that big old mustache. So we have him, who's talking all this crap about Cinder, and then we have the guy Hazel, who basically I think of Wolverine, and then we have the really crazy dude Tyrion, who's basically this serial killer anime guy, who we probably won't see it because it's RWBY, but he's the dude that would kill you and just like keep stabbing you and laughing. That's who that guy is. So we have these people. We also have 2 other people who we don't see because there were 2 empty chairs. So I'm assuming those people are out in the world. I doubt that it'll be like, oh yeah, they died already. I'm gonna assume that there are 2 other villains out there that they're saving to show us later in the volume. Or maybe we won't see them at all if they're in Vacuo, because no one's in, or not Vacuo, or yeah, Vacuo, that's what I'm thinking of. So there's no one there because we have, Weiss is in Atlas, of course. Blake is in Menagerie, which was really awesome. When I first saw that, when the episode ended and the opening started up, I was super happy to see that she was in like basically the small continent where Faunish rule. So I was excited for that, the possibilities. And I'll talk about that, the opening stuff that we got to see. But that's where she is. Like I said, Weiss is in Atlas. Of course, Yang is still in Vale. And then RWBY and Team Ranger, they're all in Mistral right now. So maybe those other 2 villains will be in Vacuo this entire volume. We'll never get to see them. And we'll have to just wait until like Volume 5 for those 2 people to show up. But we now have these 3 characters. We already, even in the opening, have the crazy dude Tyrion fighting against RWBY because Salem, in respect for Cinder, was like, alright, you know what, we'll wait for the Summer Maiden, go after this girl, and bring her to me. Which, I like that guy because he was super happy, and then she's like, bring her to me, and he was like, oh, like, so she has to be alive, so he was upset about that. But we already have that in the opening where they're fighting each other. So we got him as a fighter. I feel like the dude Hazel, of course, he's like the big brute looking character. We'd have to, just see how everything plays out if they even end up fighting. But I like the new villains. They all seem to kind of come from different areas. Like, I would guess that the prim and proper guy, simply based on the Schnee family, anyone prim and proper, I just assume is probably from Atlas. Tyrion is impossible. He's just crazy, so who knows. The dude Hazel, I would assume, comes from maybe one of like the darker areas inside of Mistral where that big black market is. So I like them, not too much from them just yet, of course, first episode, but I like their characters, pretty simple. Then we go to this young kid who, my theory at this point is that he'll probably end up being one of the maidens, because I believe they mentioned this somewhere in the last volume, is that even though the maidens are technically, they're maidens because they're women, they kind of mention like, oh, it's technically the power goes to the last person they're thinking of. Like, it doesn't have to be a woman. It just typically is. So that's normally how it goes. Like, they kind of just make it because they're called the maidens. That's clearly a term meant for women. But they kind of specify like, yeah, it's kind of just whoever you think of last is pretty much who it goes to. So it could easily be a guy. That's just what I'm assuming. So that's what I think might happen with this kid. He may have the power already, and that could be a part of why his eyes are 2 different colors. But I don't know. Like, we don't know much about this kid. He's just some kid. He's got some freckles. He's a farm boy. He has like that little sash. It had like 8 cubes on it. They're all different colors. So I know that's relevant in some regard. I just don't know what yet, because all we see him do is wake up in a panic. He goes down. Maybe he can see the future. There's always, anything we see means something. So maybe he can see the future. Maybe he can just see creepy stuff that's happening. I don't know. But I would love to know your theories on this kid. That's all I got, is like he's got different color eyes. He's on a farm, seemingly by himself. He wakes up in the barn and he goes out to do the work. And we don't see anyone else. We don't see like parents or anything like that. Anime style, just a kid. So I don't know what his deal is, but he's got that little stash in his pocket with the different colors on it. Something's up with him. There's something there. So I feel like that might be his thing, where somehow he'll end up with the power, of one of the maidens. But clearly, he's someone we should be looking out for, because he literally just had a scene where it's like, hey, I'm a new character, I'm just doing stuff, and then next scene. So he's somebody important. We just gotta wait and see. Then of course we get our first introduction to Team Ranger, which was really awesome, because their first argument is whether or not they should be called Team Ranger or Team Junior, which personally I still like Team Junior. And I did a really old video when I was doing like expectations and predictions. I was like, I named them Team Junior because this was before the Ranger thing came out. I was like, that just makes sense to me because it's Team Juniper, but sadly, of course, you take out Pyrrha's letter and you just move Ren's into her place because it's it's their team, and then you just add RWBY, so it's Team Junior. That made the most sense to me. And they go from both sides of the argument, and then it's like, well, we're helping RWBY with her mission, so shouldn't she be team leader? Which I still don't think is the case. Like, she still joined their team, so it should still be Jean, and the other letters just happen to fall in line. Like, if their letters were mixed up and it was like, Ren was after Jean, then I'd be like, well, whatever, because the letters look weird anyways. They wouldn't make any sense. But the letters work perfectly, and you just add RWBY, and it's Team Junior. And I still think it sounds fine. Of course, no offense to the character, but if Jean says it, of course it's not going to sound super cool. Like, so, I don't know. I still like Team Junior, but they named it Ranger. That's just what it's going to be. It's not like I can change it. But I still personally prefer Team Junior. I would love to know if you guys think Junior sounds better than Ranger. I loved one of Ren's first argument too, where he's like, but Ranger isn't, or Junior isn't a color. And I was like, unless he's counting every color that every Power Ranger has ever been, Ranger's not a color either. So I thought it was funny that was his first argument. And I feel like that some of that dialogue was just taken from the offices of Rooster Teeth, where people were like, yeah, I like that name, and then it kind of changed, and I don't like it as much. And it's like, but Ranger's not, Junior's not a color. It's like, well, neither is Ranger. So I feel like some of that dialogue was just like, this was a funny conversation, and they just threw it in there in the script. So I like that. We get a really epic fight scene. We get to see all the characters jumping around. Jean just gets beat up again, which I thought was funny, and it stayed in line. I was curious how much was going to change with this dramatic time skip. RWBY's still real silly, especially the Pumpkin Pete, the bunny thing. I don't love the box top stuff. They actually have box tops in the world of Remnant, which is just funny to me. And he was like, yeah, I sent them 50, and then they do the giant head. That was really good, but action was great. New type of Grim, which was awesome. It was a spirit Grim, which for those of you who don't read the manga, I'm sure this is brand new, but they've actually had this in the manga for months now. And the manga's in this really weird middle ground where it's technically not canon, but it's not exactly non-canon. So it was really awesome to see it, because I was like, man, I would love it if they've introduced, because they have 2 new Grimm that they introduced in the manga. I was like, I would love it if some of those made it into the main series. And in the first episode, they have the Spirit Grimm, because they showed it in the manga. And it was kind of a reworking of Weiss's trailer, where that suit of armor she's fighting, which we actually see a picture of at the end of this episode, that suit of armor she's fighting is actually possessed by a Spirit Grimm. And that's how they explained why she was fighting that suit of armor in the manga version of her trailer. And I was like, I would love to see that. That's awesome. And then we got to see it in this, so I was super happy. I don't know if they were like, that's a good idea, so they actually got it, they used it from the manga, or if they had that idea, way ahead of time, which they probably would, because they have to, write them out. But I thought it was great. I was like, man, that was awesome to see. It was really cool. Great fight scene. Great combination with RWBY and Nora at the end. With RWBY flying all over the place in this episode too, so that was really cool. New costumes, of course, phenomenal. And then we get to see Jean's new costume, which was a great way to honor Pyrrha, and they use, of course, the metal from her shield and stuff to add on to Jean's new costume. So he gets the cool gloves. They change up not only his sword, they change the hilt and engrave it and stuff, but they also change his shield. They move one of his gauntlets. I can't remember. I think he's right-handed, so I guess his shield is on his left hand. So he had the gauntlet up here. They move it down here. His left side, he basically has two gauntlets now. And it looked really cool. But my favorite part, honestly, was the fact that he just put on the red sash. And I really liked that. I was like, you know what? Despite all the cool stuff, him using the gold and it, embodying pure spirit into his outfit, just putting that red sash on was like, for me, I felt was the coolest way to honor her. So I really love that. And then of course we go into the, like, basically it might as well have been 2 seconds of Weiss after we get that cool moment. But we get that, and then we get our opening, which was really good. Very Power Rangers, like with the colors like shooting over the planet. I was like, all I can think of is like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers from that. But we see where all the characters are at. We get to see how they're feeling. Weiss seems like she's going to snap and try to break out by using her constructs. We get to see Blake on the water, which means she's either leaving Menagerie or going to it. Also appears that she and Sun may or may not be together based on what they do with the guy who I'm assuming is going to be your father, because they have it where they're together, and then he like moves Sun out of the way, like, get away from my daughter sort of thing. And then this other girl shows up who I have to assume is Blake's sister, which was really awesome. And I love her design too, with like the pseudo curly hair. So I like both of them. Her dad's like 1,200 feet tall. He was insanely tall. But I like that. I thought that was really cool. We got Yang doing going through like some PTSD stuff as she's kind of working with her father. And it just looks good. I'm very excited for this volume. I'm not the biggest fan of the song, if I'm being totally honest. It's not my favorite. It's actually my least favorite of all the songs. But I do think it fits, because the other songs were kind of like build-up songs. And we've had the build-up and the tear-down, from the last volume. And I think the song actually fits perfectly for the opening, because not every opening has to be like the pumped-up, rock song. Some songs should embody the fact that everything is broken down and sad and super effing depressing right now. So it makes a lot of sense. So I'm waiting for the full version. I don't hate the song. It's just my least favorite out of all the openings. So I'm waiting for the full song to see how much I like the full version of it. But as far as the openings go, it is my least favorite. This Will Be the Day is still my number one. But I like what we got to see from the opening, what it seems to hint at. Loving all the new costumes. Can't wait for the rest of this volume. Of course, definitely want to know what you guys thought of this premiere. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, least favorite parts. Like I said, I want to know what you guys think on the animation. What you guys think about how long our episodes are going to be this volume. All your theories, John's new costumes, everyone's new costumes, possibly new powers we'll see. Characters that have the same costume like we saw with Sun in the opening. His costume hasn't changed unless he got new shoes. But I want to know what you guys are expecting, hoping, glad to see, waiting to see everything that you guys are thinking about this season. And of course, I want to thank you guys for checking this out, or checking this review out. I'm so freaking excited, I don't even know how to end my own videos now. But thanks for watching.